Austen Ivereigh, who's the director of the lobby group Catholic Voices. He joins me from our Oxford studios. Very good evening.
Good evening
to you. I suppose, given the circumstances, there's a danger, isn't there, of reading between the lines too much in listening to what the Pope said today. But was there anything particularly significant that you would pick out?
I think from today, not particularly. I think from his Ash Wednesday homily last Wednesday, when he talked about divisions within the Church and the need to overcome them, and also in his address to priests just a few days ago, the priests of Rome, he was saying some very interesting things and clearly giving messages to the Church generally, but also particularly to those cardinals who will be gathering within 2 weeks to elect his successor. So yeah, I think there are messages there.
What are those messages in your view?
I think above all he's concerned about church unity. I mean, partly a pope is there, of course, to preserve the unity of the Church, and also to, it's a universal church, and one of the objectives is to make it more universal. I think some of the problems that we've had in the Vatican, clearly in the administration of the Vatican, some of the controversies and tensions that we heard about through the so-called VatiLeaks scandal also clearly have been weighing on his mind, and some of the things he's said have suggested that. But I think the messages that he's giving is, look, this is a time for prayer, it's a time for reflection, it's a time for unity, because this isn't just about the future of the Church. I mean, the Church matters to the whole world. What happens in the Catholic Church is important to the whole world because of the significance and the weight of the Catholic Church worldwide.
And of course, naturally, everyone is very much taken up with the idea of who will be Pope Benedict's successor. We heard a little earlier from the papal historian Michael Walsh, and he was looking at the fact that the Pope is now going into retreat, with some of the Vatican administration led on that retreat by Cardinal Ravasi, suggesting that that might be an indicator that that is who Pope Benedict would like to succeed him. But I believe Cardinal Ravasi is quite elderly himself. What are your thoughts at this point?
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that. Cardinal Ravasi, I mean, he always chooses a cardinal to give this Lenten retreat. This is Lent, an important time of prayer and reflection for the Church. The Pope now goes into that period of prayer with, some of his leading officials. I think, the Pope isn't about telling cardinals who should succeed him. I think what he's doing is saying, look, I'm resigning, I'm handing over, you make that decision. And the cardinals who begin to gather in Rome, well, some of them are arriving now, but when Pope Benedict stands down on the 28th, that's when the cardinals, and there are 117 who will be electing his successor, begin to gather in Rome and begin to discuss among themselves. Of course, those discussions have already begun. They're looking at who is right for this moment. Who is the
Do you think they really will be able to set aside thoughts of what Pope Benedict will think, given the fact that he is still alive? Well, mostly in these situations, of course, the Pope has died, and one imagines it would be hard for them to put what he might think completely out of their minds.
I don't think even if Pope Benedict had died, they would want to put out of mind his considerations and what the Pope has done these last 7 years. I mean, every pope builds on the predecessor, and one of the things the Pope, of course, has been building very strongly in his pontificate, which, I mean, I agree to some extent with your correspondent, there have been some crises, but actually it's been a pontificate of building, and building above all, preparing the Church for what he calls the new evangelization, which is how to take the Catholic message to the secularized, de-Christianized, often very hostile cultures of the West. Now that is going to be #1 priority for whoever takes over from Pope Benedict.
And in a line, who do you think that will be? What's your view at this point?
Look, there are people who I think, there are certainly a few, it's no more than a handful, that you could say fulfill the requirements, and they are very demanding requirements of the successor of St. Peter. I think at the moment, I think it's looking like a non-European.
OK, Austen Ivereigh, thank you very much. Austen Ivereigh there, the director of Catholic Voices.